In Rwanda's genocide, hundreds of thousands of women were raped. Most of them were murdered. Some survived their wounds, but now, 5 years on, many are dying of AIDS. No one was spared. Children as young as 5 were raped along with their mothers. A few men have been charged, but many are still free. They left their victims pregnant and diseased, struggling to bring up the unwanted babies of hate. Many call their lives hell on earth. This is their untold story. Years of planning went into that 100 days of slaughter. It's clear now that rape was part of the carefully worked out plan. For months before the killing began, the extremist Hutu government had pumped out poisonous radio propaganda. The message of hate sowed fear and resentment of Tutsi neighbors and friends, even family members. The Tutsi were cockroaches and had to be exterminated. Obscene cartoons told the militia that Tutsi women were the enemy too, to be sexually degraded before they died. Rape became official policy. The cartoons were crude, but they served their purpose. In Rwanda's genocide, there were no limits to the horror, no pity for the helpless. Not even the children were spared. Rosine was 5 years old when the terror began. In one terrible day, her father was killed and her 2 brothers murdered in front of her. A Hutu neighbor saved Rosine, but 3 men caught the petrified child as she hid with her pregnant mother. Mother and child were raped brutally and repeatedly, then left to die. Monique struggled to save herself and her daughter.
She was bleeding because of the rape. I carried her on my back, trying to flee. Before I could reach Kabwayi, I put her on the ground. Because of my pregnancy, I was exhausted. I left her there and went off, thinking she was going to die. But after I walked a few meters, I looked back, and there she was, looking straight at me. So I went back and picked her up again. When I reached Kabwayi, I found a doctor, but he refused to treat my baby. He said it would be a waste of medicine.
Rosine survived. And so did her little sister, Divine, born 2 months early because of her mother's rape. But now Rosine is a child full of terrors. Rosine is afraid of the dark, afraid, above all, of men. Since the rape, she's become diabetic too. Her mother worries that she's withdrawn, a child alone with her terrible memories. There's no breadwinner left in the household, and the stricken family's losing the struggle to survive. Next month, there won't even be money for school. Rwanda's child survivors are deeply traumatized, unable either to forget or to speak about the horrors they've seen. Their fathers killed, their mothers raped, their brothers, sisters, uncles and aunts butchered. These children are orphans. They've lost everything. Their only privilege is to be among the very few children in Rwanda who do receive some counseling, some help to get over their tragedy.
Mwabonye bica papa wanyu se? Mwarabibonye neza? Yishwe nande? Ujya ubyibuka kenshi? Iyo ubyibushye utekereza iki? Birumvikana ko ugomba kurira, birababaje. Birababaje ariko ugomba gukomera, umuhungu, kumva ugomba kuba umugabo.
In our Rwandan culture, people don't openly express their emotions. And bizarrely, children are the same. Here we try and make them talk, remember and talk about their bad memories, to help them mourn. Because if they don't mourn and accept the death of their parents, they will always stay traumatized.
After the genocide, Rwanda's social fabric had been destroyed, and a blanket of silence fell over Rwanda's mass rape. Immaculée, like most of the victims, was left deeply traumatized, physically ill, and destitute. Once she had a family network, a husband and 3 children. Now she's no family, no future, no friends. Where her house used to stand, there's nothing. She's utterly alone. In her empty world, there's no one to talk to about the day 50 members of her family died in this church.
They started killing at 9 a.m. They killed and killed and killed. Everyone was screaming. We were hiding in the priest's room. I survived because all the bodies fell on top of me. The killers didn't notice I was still alive because I was covered in blood.
Her youngest child was just 2 years old. Immaculée survived, but then was raped. Afterwards, a spear was thrust into her. She suffered the pain of her untreated physical wounds, like her untreated mental torment, in a lonely silence that's lasted 5 years.
I found out I was contaminated with some disease. I saw signs on me like abscesses and ulcers. I thought that if I mentioned this to anyone, they would criticize me and gossip about me. I was scared I would be isolated and people would talk behind my back. I never thought those things could be spoken about.
It was partly the victim's shame that kept Rwanda's rape so secret. And when women tried to talk, they often met official indifference or even ridicule. But then came at least the promise of help. Immaculée heard of a woman's organization in Kigali that might help her find treatment for her pain. She decided to go to the capital. At last, she's sent to a doctor at a clinic staffed by women who will listen to her story. Odette Nyiramilimo, whose clinic this is not surprised to see a case like this, a woman suffering from the effects of rape 5 years on. She regularly sees victims who've never been treated. They never spoke, she says, because to have survived at all was seen as shameful.
Many Tutsis who returned from exile didn't view the rest of us in a positive way. They said to us, "You were looking for death. Why did you stay here? Why did you not leave? It looks like all you women gave your bodies to survive." It was said in an accusing way. As a result, many women never dared to talk about this. You must understand, when a woman who had to give herself to survive, who had lost all her children and who would rather be dead than alive, when she is treated like that, it's not easy to reveal what happened.
Odette discovers Immaculée has a serious pelvic inflammation. She needs an operation to relieve the pain. She's also just taken an AIDS test. Odette suspects the news will not be good. There were many aspects to this genocide, and all of them were planned and carried through systematically. What happened to the women was part of the plan. They were raped on orders from above, and many of them died from multiple rape or from the brutality that went with it. Most were killed afterwards, but a few were allowed to live, only to find that theirs was perhaps the worst fate. The men who'd raped them had had AIDS. They too would die, but they would die slowly. That too was part of the plan. In the commune of Taba, survivors told me how soldiers boasted of giving them AIDS. Nobody would be spared, they said, not even the children. The soldiers wanted the women to pass the infection on to exiled Tutsi men who might return to Rwanda. Elvenie was raped in all by 60 men.
I begged them to kill me and finish me off, instead of abusing me that way. I asked them to kill me. You are raping other women and killing them afterwards, I said. Why don't you do the same to me? Kill me and finish me off. But they refused. They said they knew they had given me AIDS and that I would die anyway. They said there was no need to use a knife or even waste one bullet on me.
5 years later, Elvenie has AIDS. Even before the genocide, AIDS was ravaging Rwanda. In the city, 1 in 4 adults is HIV positive. But among the rape victims, the incidence is much higher.
At least 50% of the women who were raped were infected with AIDS. The transmission of the virus was very easy, because when the women were raped, they were traumatized and often still bleeding when they were raped again by more men. So because transmission of the virus was very easy, a large number were infected.
Immaculée's come for the results of her AIDS test. The news is not good. Immaculée is HIV positive. Immaculee's whole family's buried here, with 40,000 other victims. Now she faces the remorseless advance of the illness that will kill her. She's only 32.
Having been raped still hurts me more than what I saw in the church. Somebody who dies suffers for a minute, but just imagine suffering for 5 years without having anybody to care. If I die, I don't even have anybody to bury me. I wish I'd had the courage to kill myself then. Even now, I would like to die and wish I could kill myself. I am alive, but this is a living death.
Trauma and disease were not the only legacy of the genocide. Beata's husband was killed by his best friend. After his death, Beata's neighbor promised to save her, but raped her instead. Then he kept her as a sexual slave.
I didn't have a choice. Anywhere I could have gone, I would have been killed. I had to stay with him, but I wasn't happy. I kept thinking that he would kill me in the end.
When it was over, her rapist fled the country. But then Beata found she was pregnant. Many women in Rwanda had abortions despite the country's dominant Catholic faith. Beata wanted one too.
I was unhappy. The man didn't make me pregnant because he loved me, and he was not my husband. I didn't want to have the baby. I wanted to have an abortion, but I couldn't afford it.
Now she has a child of rape, her little daughter, Feza. Feza's 4 years old now. Beata is a dutiful mother, but she finds it hard to love her child.